Konami Studios. Star Trek Lower Decks. This is the latest of the new brand of Star Trek that has a lot of people mixed on a lot of the content coming out. So, full disclosure before we get into this review, I'm not a Trekkie. I love Star Trek. I think there's a lot of great stuff in the show. And I've watched all of the original series. I've seen some of Next Generation. I've seen the Abrams movies. I am very familiar with this world. I know more than the average person, but less than a diehard fan. Let's put it that way. I'm well versed enough where I understand all the subtle jokes and references made in this show. But I'm not a diehard fan. So when they announced that there was going to be an animated series from Star Trek that's going to be a full-on comedy, I wasn't upset. Now there's some people out there who didn't like the new direction that Star Trek was taking, which is fine, but I think this show, Lower Decks, is the best thing to come out of Star Trek in a long time, just because it completely has reverence for everything that came before it. Like, it is something that I think was needed for the genre and for the franchise, because say what you will about Star Trek to the diehard fans, Star Trek is not in the public eye in the way it should be as something like Star Wars, and not that it has to be, but kids and young people, especially people my age, I'm in my early 20s, there isn't this reverence or respect for the show in everybody. I'm not saying nobody my age likes it, but it doesn't have like that wide reaching fandom that I think it needed. So having a show like this, it really shows you what you can do with the Star Trek name and still keep it Star Trek. And if you get offended by the fact that this isn't your classic Star Trek, then move on. You know, the whole point of Star Trek was to be this experience of all these things coming together, these different types of people, and exploring and doing different creative things and going to these different places. That's what this show does in the Star Trek name, and it's really fun. I really enjoyed this show. I can't remember the last time I felt this way about like a Star Trek TV show. I didn't really like Picard. I couldn't get into Discovery, and this one was just really fun. Of course, it is very timely in its animation style. It looks exactly like Rick and Morty, but honest to God, I think it looks better than Rick and Morty because the budget here seems way better. A lot of the times the animation just has this perfect blend of cinematic feel where it will like fade out the backgrounds or it will like blur out the background so we see what's in focus for the characters. The animation is very fluid. The camera moves with the animation in a lot of great ways. Not something we see a lot of in animation, and I think it looks very cinematic, which is a huge, huge thing that makes this show so much better, just because if it was lesser animation, I understand how some people might think this is kind of a waste of time. But because the animation is so fluent and so vibrant and beautiful and colorful and everything makes sense, it definitely adds to this story and the characters. Now, I think if you're going to do a comedy of Star Trek, it's a good idea to stay away from like the top commanding people. We don't need another story about like our captain and this time they're down on their luck and silly. Let's talk about the lower deck people. That's really fun. These are the people that I think make the show. This is the best part of the show in my opinion, is these characters. Just because it's all about loving Star Trek and loving being on the spaceships and all that stuff. All of these characters, Rutherford, Tendi, Mariner, Boimler, they all love being in Starfleet. They're all fans of Star Trek, for lack of a better term. These people grew up seeing the older ships and admiring them, and they wanted to be a part of that feeling. That's a great feeling to have for like these young characters that we don't know a lot about. They all have a reverence for Star Trek and Starfleet itself, and I think that's a really cool thing. Something that definitely adds to this. They all have this like really energetic personality. Some of them are a little more interested in like staying by the rules and all that, but they all really care about the stuff they're doing and are very passionate about it. You know, Tendi is very excited when she gets onto the ship because she's kind of like our point of view character. And she's just so energetic. She's like, I can't wait to work in the medical bay. I can't wait to meet all these different people. And Rutherford's the mechanic. He's just talking about how much he loves working on the ship and building up all these things and doing fun stuff like that. And Boimler is our character who just loves the rules. He wants to go up in the ranks of Starfleet because he cares so much about what it is. And Mariner adds that classic flavor of just, you know, like the kind of rogue character, your Kirk, not really Kirk, but just kind of like that classic, like, go against the rules and we'll get the job done either way, but she still cares about being a part of Starfleet. So this is what the show needed. You're seeing these young, kind of millennial-like characters who are very passionate about working for this ship, and I think that's a really cool thing to see. And let me say this, when the show has reverence for Star Trek and all that came before it, it has it in spades. Of course there are jokes, it's a comedy. Don't go into this thinking it's going to be this serious piece where everything's going to be like this slow, methodical, dramatic burn like you've seen in previous Star Trek shows. Look, the original series got quirky sometimes. That's all I'm going to say. So this feels like it's right up there with it. We're getting references to all the other shows. They talk about how, oh, this happened on the Enterprise, this happened on, the, with Q and all that stuff. And it's really cool. Some great cameos appear. There's some great just appearances from different characters, different species, great references to stuff that came before it. I'm trying not to spoil anything for you guys because it's fun Star Trek. Isn't that what we want from Star Trek? We want something fun that has a meaning, and the meaning is here. Love Star Trek. It's fun. I mean, it's just that kind of a show. So you're going to get your classic references. It's not going to be like Rebels, which I think a lot of people would make the comparison that they wanted something like Star Wars Rebels. It's not like that. It's Rick and Morty in Star Trek. And that really works to the show's benefit because we can do some great animation, some great fight scenes, some great just interesting dialogue tidbits that are really funny. There's just some great references to previous stuff in Star Trek, like the way some people fight, Ransom in particular using the two-fisted punches, taking everyone down, just the way like they even reference making movies. I think there's just something really cool about this show, and the lead characters, they're great. Boimler and Mariner in particular, they really hold this together. Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid, they're great. Like they're great at voicing this. They're very interesting leads and really help elevate this to a next level. The supporting cast is fantastic. Every character in here works. It's 10 episodes and they breeze by really quick. And I think that's a really cool feeling to have, because when you have something that's been around for so long like Star Trek, you can get bogged down by, all like the history and the details, but this is like, you guys, enough about Star Trek, you can go in here like, oh, they're referencing Kirk, oh, they're referencing the Enterprise, oh, this species appeared in this show, in this episode, oh, here's this character, oh, here's this person returning, that kind of stuff, and it's really fun. It does do some new and unique things for the world, like just some building new planets, going to these different areas, showing us what lower decks do, but still has like the modern comedy, so you're gonna get your classic Rick and Morty humor mixed with something like Futurama. I think is a good way to describe it, and all that in the bubble of Star Trek. Come on, how is that not a winning success and something that's really poignant and cool? It's great. There's really no other animated show out there right now, because I honestly think this is better than Rick and Morty. The animation is definitely inspired by that show, but what this did was just keep everything focused to the point where you're going to like the characters and their enthusiasm. There's not one character here who's like miserable, and even if they are, it's kind of played up as a joke, but they still get the joke in it to make something funny. It is just a great, well-made piece made by people who care about Star Trek and are passionate enough to realize you don't have to take it all seriously. You're allowed to experiment in the genre, in the franchise, and do something different than what you would want. And I think that's important, because why would we want something the same all the time? Why would we want the same Star Trek we had back in the 90s? We wouldn't. As a culture, as a society, as a people, we've moved past that. So let's experiment with it. We'll do an animated comedy in the style of a modern animated comedy. It feels like something that could air on Fox. I'm glad they are doing it this way. It's great. The voice cast is great. The characters are colorful. The animation is incredible. Really cinematic. And that's like that is a testament to how good this show is. So this is exactly what Star Trek needed for the new era. It's giving reverence to everything that came before it, while being something new and bold that a lot of young people can jump on board for. This is a great point to start if you want to get into Star Trek, because you can have the fun comedy, and then if you like it enough, you might want to go back and be like, oh hey, maybe I'll watch the original series, maybe I'll watch some episodes of Enterprise, or maybe I'll, watch The Next Generation and see these other characters. Maybe I'll want to see Picard or Discovery. That's really fun and really important for this franchise. So Star Trek Lower Decks, I am going to give an 8 out of 10. It is well worth your time, my friends. Well worth it indeed. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.